Hi, and welcome to Sumaya Unveiled. Today we have a special guest. We have Stacey Lamont Sydnor. He is an amazing musician. His name speaks for itself. If you get an opportunity, if you have not heard of him, do yourself a favor and log on to, I think it's on IGSLS underscore entertainment underscore 21. SLS underscore entertainment underscore 21. And he has worked with Layla Hathaway, Hilary Duff, the Jacksons, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Robbie Williams, and underscore entertainment underscore 21. I'm coughing. Hold on. I'll edit it out. If I hate when I do that. Oh my God. I just spilled the water. I promise I'm about to start. I literally just spilled the water, but it's okay. I feel like I'm crying now. Hold on.
You got me crying.
Literally trying not to cry. And because I was choking, I have a bug in my throat, but it's okay. I know. We're going to start. Okay. Hello and welcome to Sumaya Unveiled. Today is a crazy day, to say the least. I actually, believe it or not, started off having somewhat of a rough day emotionally. And I kind of found it hard to smile, but I made myself go out and smile and have a good face. And then I have a special guest today who I'm actually meeting for the first time online on this live stream that you guys are seeing. And prior to the live stream, I think we've been on for about maybe 10 or 15 minutes. We've been laughing. He's hilarious actually. And sometimes you just need laughter. You just need to have that for your soul. Laughter is good. So we decided to go ahead and be candid and just share this experience of what it is to just get together and try your best to do it. And sometimes you just need to laugh. So he is a music director. He plays the drums. He's a producer. He is also a private events contractor. His musical credits are included, but not limited to Layla Hathaway, Hilary Duff, the Jacksons, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Robbie Williams, and Michael Linton. And so I came across his page, I believe, through Instagram, and I've seen him play the drums and play all types of percussion, and he is amazing. And I'm a music lover. So if you are a music lover, and if you are not, you will start loving music after you tune in to that Instagram, that IG that I just told you. Stacey Lamont Sydnor, it is such an honor to have you here.
I'm honored to be here. Followed your dad for years, so
I'm not surprised because he's very similar to you. He has that kind of personality that when you come into his presence, you have to laugh and it's hard to keep a straight face because he definitely has that same joy that you have about you. So it's not a surprise that you would have followed him. And thank you so much. He's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Well, I first heard about with Miss Gladys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if anybody is wondering, who's he talking about? Gladys Knight was my former stepmother. So they were married at one time for a very short period of time, over 20 some years ago. And she's a sweet, amazing woman. And ironically, I was a huge fan of, wait, go ahead. What were you going to say?
You just aged me.
Why? How did I age you?
You said, yes, that was 20 years ago. Oh God, she just aged me that quick.
So you're not old. It's okay. We're okay. It's okay to have some. What do we call this? We have life experience is what we have, correct?
That's right.
Would you say that?
That's right.
Yeah, we have life experience and that's okay. If you keep living, you'll have it too. So don't hate on us. And so we're going to go way back to your first musical influence. When I was telling you about my mom being in a band and me hearing that live music for the first time, I was 2 years old. I was a toddler. And I would just dance. I remember I would always dance to when I heard the sound of the bass guitar and the drums. And so What was your first experience with music, early on? How old were you and what happened?
I mean, I was probably toddler. My dad and his brothers and my uncles, they had a group, Quartet Gospel, the rural southern part of Virginia. Bitty town. was a county, Halifax County, and
Mhm.
within that county, I grew up in Nathalie, Virginia, and Crystal Hill, Virginia. We were farmers. We farm, we farm cats. Chasing cows, pigs, and playing in creeks. We had only music that we were subject to hearing back then. Early, late '70s, early '80s was quartet gospel music and country music, bluegrass, or
Mhm.
called chitlin circuit music. And so my dad and them had this group called the Pilgrim Harmonials, and they would go around singing at churches. So that was my first introduction to hearing and seeing live music and how the interaction was with the people and the people. It just I was enthralled.
It's so interesting hearing you say quartet because I honestly, my first experience hearing a quartet that I can remember was when
I'm
I
gonna see
went to
a real
Spelman.
quartet.
So like I heard and I was like, where's this been all my life? Because I'm from
Who did you
Ohio.
hear? Who did you hear? I want to see if you see a real
I don't
quartet.
know. I was at church and they came in and they were singing and I was like, what is this? Like I was have you ever felt deprived? Like you hear something and you're like, I just felt so
Yes,
deprived. So you understand when you have those
one.
new experiences and you're like, what? Where's this been all of my life? I don't even
Okay.
know what the Williams brothers. They are not a
Oh
quartet, are
yes,
they? They would consider us. Well, then I knew
they are
them.
one
I
hundred
guess I did.
percent
I grew up on
a
the Williams brothers,
quartet.
so that would be the only quartet that I could say that I grew up on, and I always, always loved them, and still
Yes.
do. So now we have your dad, who is a singer and he plays the drums. And just you thinking about it took you right back, and you can see his head just proud, and you get all of that joy thinking about how hilarious your dad was and just that experience. What did you feel? I want to get into your mind when you saw your dad, when you heard your dad, when you heard that music. What was as a child? What were you feeling and thinking about it?
I mean, at that I was by the time I was 6, I
Hmm.
had gotten into hee haw at that point, and
Mm.
the
Oh
country
my
music
gosh, that
varieties.
show. Uh huh.
And so at that point, that's when I told my mom and dad, "This is what I'm going to do. I'm gonna play drums all over the world, and I'm going to be on hee haw."
You want to hear something, Stacey? No, seriously. That used to, when I was a little kid, that used to be one of my favorite shows. And my mom was like, whose child is this? Why are you watching Hee Haw? Like it just didn't match the
No,
music that she listened to. And I loved that
that was
show. So
family
I
time for us.
understand.
That
Yeah, you saw Hee Haw and you said, I want to do this. I actually want to become a musician. So what were some of
I'm
the
going to
first
play.
steps that you took? Like what did that look like for you? And how old were you when you did you took your first steps as a musician? Like, when did you pick up an instrument?
I,
What was that
that's when I
like?
started. I started building makeshift drum sets.
Oh,
To
wow.
play on.
Mhm,
When I was
mhm,
5 and 6, oh man, I would have an old toy Tonka truck as my snare drum. I get an old
mm,
lamp as a
mhm,
cymbal. I have a chair set up as my toms, or I get some
mhm.
boxes. Man, that's all I did all day.
Yes, so you were a visionary. So you pretty much put it all together. So you said, "Okay, I'm gonna have this instrument and make this into what I want to hear," which was your own drum set. And I really love that because the imagination of kids, you never want to underestimate that. You never want to just look at a kid and just put them in a box and go, "Oh, they don't know what they're doing." They do, because from you to get from that point all the way to where you are now, you had a vision at a very young age. You
Because back then instruments was stupid expensive. So when nobody just going like now, you can go get instruments off of Offer Up and Craigslist.
Mhm.
Guitar centers close. Amazon, you can buy a freaking guitar. Have it.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, if you want a guitar, you gonna spend some money on some drums was $1,000 back in the day. Or my cousin Sherry, my cousin Wanda, they used to sneak me down to the basement when I would code after schools, and they would break sticks. Or my cousin broke a broom handle one time, and I would sneak to learn how to play, and
Oh
I
my
would just
god.
emulate what I saw my dad or my cousin Morgan, my other cousin Jimmy, and my little brother, big brother Alvin, and then of course Lonnie from Heart Got Rest on High on Hee Haw. I used to watch those guys on Hee Haw, man. TV, just emulate. Just, give me. We'll just go outside, find me some sticks to play with. You clean up the wood chips and all that, so they don't, so they want to get in trouble. And yeah, that's where I started. I would sneak. and
Mm.
steal the music from the big kids out of their drum cases and take it home and practice and put. And one day, my band director, Mr. Johnny Davis, God rest his soul. So happened, and I just started playing with the big kids was playing, and I didn't think he was there yet. So I'm in the room just. He's like, "How do you know how to do that?" Went and took the music and did what they did. So then he took me out of the beginnings class. He would literally give me individual lessons by myself. He would let me play with the other kids, and then until my sixth grade year, just put me in the advanced band. Spent my whole fifth grade year with just me and him. My best
Beautiful.
friend to this day, his name is Thomas Christopher Walton. Ace Boone Coon, which we were cousins on my dad's side. But he hated my
Mhm.
guts because Mr. Davis would make these recordings, these cassette tape recordings, and take them to his other students. And he'll be, when they're not doing their lesson, he's like, yeah, this is a fifth grader. So they hated my guts before they even knew me. When we do the all county band and stuff, because earlier than all the rest of the kids my age. So I was already playing with the all county and bands and stuff. And so by the time the other guys caught up, all the different elementary schools come together and the top
Yeah.
players play this
Uh-huh.
concert for the county. But then no one would talk to me because they hated me
You
because
were
he
the
would always.
standard. They were hating the standard. It wasn't even your fault.
I
That's so
just
funny.
didn't. I just went for it. These drums, I'm going to be on hee haw. I'm gonna play for a
Yes.
major quartet. Back then, it was a hee haw or a major quartet. I
Mhm.
hadn't gotten to the mindset of thinking even bigger yet. Me, from where I'm from, I went to the county fair and watching Alan Jackson, watching the hee haw when they come to town for the county
Mhm.
fair, or watching Willie Nelson. That's all we saw. All we and back in the day, you saw for live music on bluegrass, country, and
Mhm.
quartet gospel. That was it. There
Mhm.
wasn't no concerts. We couldn't afford that. Concerts were $15 to go. You go. We couldn't afford that. So it was, and how's will get to Greensboro from Virginia? I
Mhm.
couldn't drive at that time. So it was none of that going to concerts and stuff. So I ain't know. My major concert, first major concert. I probably was my family. We took a little we call it a family vacation. We spent the Dominion in Richmond, Virginia, and we saw the Four Tops and the Temptations. So that was my
Oof.
first major concert of
Yeah.
seeing outside of okay, I'm gonna say black people. Seen a lot of I seen Dolly Parton, I seen Willie
Yeah. Oh
Nelson
my gosh, I
because
love
of
that. Wow.
I know
I love Dolly.
and Federal Railroad fair, but that only comes once a year,
Yeah.
and so when I saw that again, that helped cement what I was going to do. I was out and seeing when they introduced the musicians, they gave everybody a little solo. I was
Mhm.
like, oh,
Mhm.
that's gonna
It's
be
just
me.
like,
That's
"That's
gonna
gonna
be
be
me.
me." So that's when you start to dream bigger? Is that when it started
That's
to
when
come into
yes. I was about 13
like a
then, about
seed that
13,
was just
14.
planted? Okay.
Yeah, it was that. Yep, that was planted then. But I got called to play this musical. It's a musical
Mhm.
called Anything Goes. It was a Broadway musical, but travel. And they would this thing called Little Theater that happened when all the little Broadway plays would come and the actors,
Mhm.
whatever. But they would hire bands through the union. Charlotte County, there was no union. It was just
Wow.
who around here could play. And who did them all
I love it.
was my mentor. His name is Damon Brown. I love that man. I can't even stress how much I love Damon Brown. That is my boy. I first saw
Mm.
them when I was like 7 or 8, and they were playing in this church quartet with this quartet group called the Adams Family. I know, like a TV
Mm.
show, but these was some singing folks. First real drum, like major drum influence, was the drummer for that group. His name was Donald Adams. And watching Damon and my boy Harold, who lived next door to my grandmother, they both ended up going to Berkeley and phenomenal guys. They were playing this event. These are the top musicians from our area, so
Mhm.
they get called to come do this theater stuff and all that. But the drummer they were using, his name was Herman Brandon. He was the classical genius from our town. And of course, we all looked up to Herman. And he went on to the Army Band and stayed in 20 some years and very successful. Great drummer, great freaking drummer. And taught me a lot. And so he couldn't make it back home from the Army to do this event. So they was like, well, we got this kid at the high school that's pretty good. So they called me, came in, and it was like, oh my God. there's timpani, there's xylophones, there's this percussion stuff. So I thought it was a whole section of us, like I'm used to doing the concert band and classical music and whatnot. Drum set, everything. They was like, no, that's all for you. I was like, oh, then
Mm.
this huge binder of just charts everywhere. So Damon saw my face. He said, I looked in your face, and I said, that young man needs help. His house. And
Wow.
after school, he'll pick me up. We'll go to his house, and he would just drill me. When I tell
Mm.
you, I went through the David Brown boot camp, music boot camp, because the first thing on the page was a begin. It's a begin.
Mhm.
First of all, back then I said beguine because I ain't know no better, and
Right,
um,
right.
and it's a style of music. It's like
Mm.
a bossa nova, similar to a bossa nova.
Okay.
So Brazilian. And so I'm like, oh wow, but I had no clue.
Right.
And so he started taking me through the book of the various styles of music. I saw calypso, then you had
Mm.
sambas, you had, of course, the big band jazz stuff, and so you playing all the different things. Again, I had no clue. I was very fit proficient at reading music, but I just didn't know what to do. So he took me on his wing, and then he took a liking to me, and he put me in their country band. I became part of their Infinity with him and his
Mm.
brothers, and Harold. They had an amazing band, and so then I started playing these. I was 16, 17, playing these bars and clubs, doing the quartet thing, and then doing that. That's when I'm like, okay, I can probably really do this. Because then I started getting paid. They started giving. I was getting like $100 a gig. I'm like, what?
What? I'm getting paid for this?
I'm
That's
making
awesome.
more than my mama. I'm making more than my mama
Mm.
on the weekends. But on
Mhm.
2 days, I'm making more than my mom did, in her job. Because back
Yeah.
then, minimum wage back then was $3.10 an hour.
Wow.
305 actually. It's like
Mm.
305,
Mhm.
310. And so it was, people was making ends meet off of whatever.
Yeah.
Here I
Yeah.
am, I'm playing drums, getting 70, 50 to 75 to $100 a show. Then I started doing the quartet thing with this group called the Heavenly Five because I me together. And then from that
Mhm.
point, the turning point, and Mr. Gatewood, he was my band director at the time. He was
Mm.
naval band officer. Whole thing was he was going to put me in the Navy band. Sure bang, he's getting me in the Navy band. That introduced me to DCI drum corps. Then I started watching the drum corps stuff, and then I got into the drum corps thing, and then I didn't make first chair. State band. That fueled my, oh my God, woo, that little fire under me. I went crazy. I just practiced like a nutcase. Then Damon would give me these cassette tapes. And back then, you made the tapes by recording off the radio or dubbing them,
Mm.
pushing two buttons down. But anyway, he would give me a cassette tape, but every song was a different genre.
Oh, that's
Every song,
awesome.
I would have to listen to the song, but I couldn't move to the next song unless
Mhm.
I perfected the song I was working on. That means the drums had to be tuned the right way. I'm playing the right feel. I'm not it outside of the genre that it's supposed to sound like before I can move to the next song. But the next song is not something that's going to be the same genre. I might be playing a country song. The next song is going to be like an Art Blakey jazz thing. The next song might be some Earth, Wind, and Fire. And then the next song after that, I'm playing, Duran Duran. Then the next song after that, we back to playing some James Brown. The next song after that, it's a gospel song. Next song after that, oh, he
Wow.
flips it up. I'm playing a polka. It's like, oh man, but everything was different, and he would not let me move forward unless I mastered the way the drums were supposed to sound.
Mm.
Everything felt the way it's supposed to be.
That's
That's what
brilliant.
Oh
That
man, I didn't
explains
think
your
that.
range. I know you didn't, but look
I
at what
didn't
it
think
where it
that until
took
later.
you. That explains so much because your
Mhm.
sound, it's like I can't really put it in a box, and I can't it does sound like you could just play anything, and that's why. For going back to those
Instantaneous.
days where you were forced, it was a boot camp. You were forced to immerse yourself not in just one genre, but multiple ones. So I think that's I know it didn't feel good, but my
It
goodness,
didn't
he
feel
knew what he
good.
was doing when he trained you.
He
He
was
knew
a
it.
tyrant.
Wow.
He was a tyrant
Mhm.
because I thanked him. We was in Atlanta. Him and my LA mentor, his name is Chad Wright, was
Mm.
I was on percussion with the Jackson at the time, and Chad was on drum. Damon happened to be in Atlanta. We was all
Oh,
in
wow.
the same city at the same time,
Mhm.
doing shows at two different places. But he came by our sound check, and I got to let my Los Angeles mentor, and my childhood mentor meet. Oh my God,
Wow.
I cried that day. It was
It was
yeah,
just like,
my
"Okay,
boy
you doing all
played for
right."
the Pilgrim
Wow.
Jubilees. He acknowledged
Mhm.
it by saying, "Yeah, boy
Mhm.
played for the Pickle Jubilees this week. Yeah, he did a good
Mhm.
job, you know."
Mhm.
You know, well,
Yeah.
that's all the accolades you get out of Winston Sidnor. And that was it. That
Wow.
if you
I
got
love
that, you
it.
doing good,
But
right?
it was good for you to get that, you know? I'm sure. I'm sure that meant, like,
What?
something. I know you were like, "This is
Yes, because
huge."
I refused to play
Yes.
for him. Yes, it was
Mm.
because I refused to play for him. I
Mhm.
refused to play for him.
Mhm.
I wouldn't do
Wow.
it. You
You know
fired me when I was 12. I
yeah.
was scarred.
you you were scarred and you look where it took you. I mean, everything happens for a reason and makes you where you know, to become where you are now. And that's amazing. I hear so many recurring themes, resilience. Again, you starting off as a child and saying, look, I'm going to create this. I don't have it, but instead of focusing on what I don't have, I'm going to make it. This is what I do have. I'm going to put it together. I'm going to do this. You were so diligent in it that people throughout your entire the course of your life have slid in and said, let me help you. You had your cousin sneaking in sticks and doing that, and then it led to you going into the fifth grade, and then that teacher coming in and taking you and giving you private lessons. Then you go on, and later on you have the other man who put you in boot camp, and then you go to and you have just different
Damon,
people who are you have
Mr.
all of these
Gabriel.
opportunities
Yeah.
that are coming to
But
you.
they
They
saw what they
did.
saw.
But
Yeah,
the
way more than I.
reason that they were able to see it is because you were diligent in practicing. Like you kept perfecting. It was like this, I don't want to say obsession, but you had this resolve that said, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to quit. This is who I am. This is what I do. I'm going to keep going. And as you did that, people just came out of nowhere, just helping you along your journey. You know what I mean? Like I think of that film Forrest Gump. You know, he just traveled everywhere and he happened to run
Oh
into
yeah,
these different people. It's like here you are, and you
that's one
just
of my favorite
happen
all
to,
time
to
movies.
meet, yes, you happen to meet these people that just are so instrumental in forming you and at different stages exactly what you needed, right? So later on you end up getting, you know, that person who teaches you all these different genres of music and makes you perfect that, but it had to start with you first getting somebody to sneak the sticks in. It's like everything led to something bigger and bigger to push you into where you are. So what would you say to someone who's watching? Shout out to, I don't know why I keep calling up Lompoc because I live in Ohio now, but shout out to this little town called Lompoc, California. Shout out to Certain
Long poke.
Sparks.
I'm going.
Lompoc, you got to go there. Certain Sparks Music. Who is it? Senna. Um, who else is there? Mike Sang and Jacob, I think Jacob Cole, they have they have this little, it's a little town and they have this music shop and they mentor a lot of kids and they have private lessons and things like that. So in case these kids are watching, right? What would you tell these kids who are in this town and they're learning music and maybe they see somebody as great as you and they think, "Oh my gosh, this is unattainable. Like I want to be like that." What would you tell them to get them on that path to perfect their craft, whatever instrument that they're playing?
Don't stop. And don't never
Mm,
let nobody discourage you. If you say you want to do it, just do it. But Nike says it best. Just do it. Don't ever take the lack of resources for being a reason you can't learn to do something. I was just watching some on Instagram. This kid, he made in Africa. He made a drum set out of the stuff that's in his environment. He took a tree and a
mm,
log, old plate, tin plate or a trash can lid or something. He had it hanging up on this thing, and he made a foot pedal out of some contraption. He made all this, and he's playing. And I'm like, and I sent a message to him like, whoever posted this, if you can find this kid some kind of way, how can I get him a drum
oh
set?
my gosh.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and I want to send him one. I mean, I got
Mhm.
plenty in my garage, and I can spare a kit. And how can or I order one from Alibaba, wherever? Just how can I
Yeah.
get this kid a kit? Because you can't let your situation and your the way you grow up be your detriment and your excuse for why you don't achieve and don't get to something. I mean, I was a bad kid. You know, I ended up into drugs and selling
Mhm.
drugs, and
Mhm.
I was into and I was bad. I was
Mhm.
not a good kid.
Mhm.
Um, and and I use my circumstance of growing up as a sharecropper, saying that why I need to do this, need to do that, and do this, and when I
Mm.
really didn't, you know. Um, so take whatever your situation and use that as your fuel.
Whew.
Find that benchmark, write it down, so you can
Yes.
look at it every day. If back in the day, what we did, we get the magazines, the Right On and the Jet magazines, and that's what we had. Essence and Ebony. Those were the black
Mhm.
magazines back in the day. So I would take the pictures out of. They would show concerts. I would put a picture of Maurice White and Earth, Wind, and Fire and the Jacksons. My favorite Jackson was
Mm.
Randy Jackson, and then I ended up playing with the Jacksons and doing his job that he did with his brothers, and that was my favorite Jackson.
God, I love them. Yes.
And
Wow.
I even wanted I wanted the striped referee pants he wore on the victory tour. I even wanted them joints
Yes,
because I had the
like,
victory tour lunchbox.
oh my gosh, I can't. I'm trying to focus because, yeah, they're amazing. They are absolutely
I had the
amazing.
victory tour
Legendary.
lunchbox, and I played with them. I worked with
Mm.
all the family, and
Yeah. Yeah.
all the stuff like Trisha Yearwood. I played with
Mhm.
Trisha Yearwood
Mhm.
when I go back to my hee haw roots. And
Mhm.
ironically, they was going to do a reboot of hee haw, and I was playing this.
What?
I was in a house band for this event. They were. It was about 10 years ago, and so
Wow.
I'm playing this event for ALS, and
Mhm.
back when the ALS thing was huge, and
Mhm. Mhm.
so we doing this event, and I forgot the name of the artist, but he was from Nashville, and we played, and then the producer came up of the show and was like, "Hey, we're doing a reboot of Hee Haw." And man, the way you interpreted these country songs and the music,
Mhm.
you would love if you were to be the house drummer. Oh my God.
Mm.
You talk about
Are you
someone
kidding me?
losing they I was it. I called my mama.
Yeah.
I said, I need you to say this to my mama. Because my dad had passed, but when I
Yeah.
was younger,
Yeah.
and when I was
Mhm.
in my 20s, and so
Mhm.
I called my mom, and it was late in Virginia because it was nine
Mhm.
something, 10 o'clock in Cali, so it had to be midnight.
Mhm.
And she know I'm the only person gonna call that time of night. She's like, "What you want?" I said,
Mhm.
"Mama, you got to hear this." Then I made him say it on the
Oof.
phone, and she started laughing. And I was like, "I told you I was gonna be a drummer of hip hop."
You told her.
And but the
Wow.
show never it never took off.
Mhm.
But the
But just
point of
that. Yeah.
that man asked me to be the house
Mm.
drummer for the new Hee Haw, a black dude,
And
first of
how old
all, on
again
the
were you
country
when you
show.
were watching Hee Haw? How old were you one
I
more
started
time?
watching Hee Haw when I was 4.
Yeah, because that
That I can remember. I was
mhm.
4 years old when I first started
Mhm.
watching Hee Haw. Actually, no, I've been deeply rooted in church and in godly principles in the Bible, and
Mhm.
I stand on it. I still do,
Mhm.
and I have an uncanny belief, and you can do whatever you put your mind to it. Even from the time I was a kid, I took every moment to practice. I would skip lunch to sit there and practice. And in high school,
Mm.
they'll tell you I'll sit up in the corner. I'll be practicing in the morning before the bell ring. I got my books on the floor. And I got my sticks. I'm working on music. Um, to this day, I'm still practicing in my hotel room, and when I'm on the road, I go in my garage and I practice for hours. Still to this day, when I can't do as much as often as I want to, because most of the time I'm learning shows now, which is well, I'm still practicing, and always aiming to get better. Watching all these young guys on the online is like, oh my god, it's like back when and one basketball came out, we saw all the tricks. That's how I feel about these new drummers.
Mm.
But so use all of that stuff as your fuel. See these people doing what you think you want to do, go for it, and don't get into the thing that the mindset that because you see all these young guys and new cats playing all the stuff on whatever
Mhm.
instrument you choose to play. It ain't got to be drums, it can be anything. That you have to do it that way. Because no, because most of the stuff we play and the stuff that make us play that allowed us to buy homes and things like that. That's not. That's you may find a gig or two that you can do that on, but in reality, they want you to play them records. Can you play the record?
Mm.
The major money stuff that I make my most money on is stuff I play the less notes on. So we were bamboozled coming in somewhere in the middle. Somewhere it got away from telling people the goal is to play simple and to really hone in on the tones and the artistry of the actual song, and make sure that that thing you playing that the Ricky Minor said it best in his book. He said, I hire whoever played the song the best." That was his thing. If you play the song, that's who I'm hiring. You sound good on this. You can play the record better. So, and once I read that book, along with just growing up and in the industry, I just stuck with that. Yes, I can play fast if I need to, but that's not
Mhm.
where you have to put your focus on. Because the people you don't hear about, and the ones that's on all
Yeah.
these records in the studio, playing on these film scores and all that,
Mhm.
you don't hear about them. You don't see them doing all the crazy chops because they don't have to. They sitting in
Mm.
their big house, sitting in the pool. They relaxing because they playing these records. Nobody know their name. Who care? They don't care if you know their name. They honed in on their craft and they got really good at to the point where they're perfect all the time. Basically, Fortunately, I get called to play on a lot of records, um, which is it's a consistency, being consistent in what you're doing, and hone in on that. And
Yeah.
do not let people tell you not to learn how to read music. If you Because a lot of times in church world where I come from, grew up in, they be like, "Oh, you cheating, you reading music." No, I have opened myself up to a whole nother economic stream of revenue for myself, because now I can do these gigs that only require reading, where you got certain musicians who cannot.
Mhm.
So make yourself versatile. Making yourself versatile, which keeps you in demand. The more versatile you are, the more genres you can cover, the more different things, arenas you can go into, um, and expand into production, expand into songwriting, expand into the music business side, which a lot of us are terrible at.
Oh, that's so
Learn
good.
how to
That's so good.
negotiate. Learn how to negotiate a contract. Learn
Mhm.
how to negotiate and how to speak up for yourself. Yes, you know what you're worth, but you know not to. You got to keep it in a range where you're not insulting, where it's not insulting to you, and you're pricing yourself out of a job. But yet,
Mhm.
learn how to find that happy
That
medium, how to
even.
negotiate where you can
Mhm.
be a happy medium, and people skills. Learn people skills.
Mhm.
Don't get so caught up playing in your room on video games and all this that where you never learn how to actually interact with people. My
Mhm.
biggest attribute for me is networking. I'm a
Mhm.
people person, and because at the end of the day, they got to like you first. Because
Mhm.
if you're trying to be a touring musician, guess what? You're gonna spend most of your time not on stage. Most of your time is gonna be the traveling and hanging. So the show is only most of the time an hour to 2 hours.
Mhm.
Everything else is hang time. And then, can I hang out with you? Do you have good hygiene? Do you Are you messy? Um are you someone who just I don't want to be around because you negative all the time?
Mhm.
Um are you someone that's violent or got violent tendencies or drink too much or smoke too much weed? Or that's all the stuff you need to hone in on as you move forward, because you got to be someone that's pleasant to be around, or know your tribe. And but that comes again with networking and knowing who you are and whom you like to be around, who can tolerate you and who you can tolerate. Um, Lastly, never stop growing. Um, just because you figured you thought you reached a wonderful moment, you getting some shows, you get some gigs, you get some calls. Guess what? There's a young cat coming behind you, practicing every day. He coming for your job.
Oh, yes.
There's an old dude that see you slipping because his boy is on the gig with you. He's like, "Yeah, man, such and such been acting up, man. So hey, I might can get you in." That goes
Mm.
on every day, every single day. So you got to make sure you stay up on your game. And if you got a music director that like me, I fire my friends. See my face? I
Mhm.
fire my friends
Mhm.
because at the end of the day, it's my name that's on it. SLS Entertainment
Yes.
is my company name. And again, learn to operate as a business.
Yes.
That's that's the ethical side and the actual business side. Business ethics is a whole course. I got my degrees are in management. I got one in management and I have one in human resources.
Mhm.
And business ethics is a real thing.
Mhm.
You got to know it. You got to know. And when you out, even when you're out touring, learn how to eat with the right fork,
Mhm.
and how to order, how to sit at the table, not put your elbows on the table, and And probably because sometimes when you get into these certain arenas, you now eating with dignitaries, you eating with senators, you eating with, all that goes into play of
Mhm.
how who will hire you and the level that you can get to in terms of where you're trying to take yourself or trying to get to.
Everything that you went through, starting off not having the resources, not having the instruments, and working with what you had, being so diligent in practicing that people just came alongside you out of nowhere and helped to push you and train you to get to where you are. And then having opportunities where your mind started to expand and you started to dream bigger and think bigger and speaking things out loud as a child. I'm going to be on Hee Haw one day, to having that opportunity, even though it didn't carry itself all the way out, to having that opportunity presented where you didn't have to go to him. They saw you and they said, I want you. So I think that there's something to be said, not only to young people, but to older people, to middle-aged people, that if you're faithful, if you're not worrying about who's looking at you, especially in social media, and you just keep going anyway, and you just keep doing it,
People
it's going to pay off.
people gonna talk about you, whether you do it
Yeah.
good, whether you do it bad. They
Yeah.
gonna talk about you regardless. So I'm like,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. And if they're not
Say what
talking,
you gonna say.
then you're not doing it. You're not
Then
doing it right if they're not
you not
talking
doing
about
something
you.
right.
Yeah, you're not doing something right. And I'm kind of in that space now. It's like if no one's looking, keep going anyway. If you have 0 views, you keep producing, you keep going, just like Stacey
Keep
Lamont
producing.
Sydnor, and you will see it pay off. That diligence, because it's not for that, but it's for doing it out of the love and that passion that will just open doors for you to continue walking in your purpose and utilizing your skills and talents. So Stacey Lamont Sydnor, you were the laugh and the joy I did not know I needed on today. Thank you so much, because from the time I logged
This is
in,
me every day.
you had me
This is
laughing.
me every day all day.
Yeah, and I thoroughly needed this laugh. I really did. I'm so grateful and humbled and honored, because you're extremely humble, that you would have even been on my platform. Thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing your wealth of like knowledge and skills and
Thanks. I'm honored
experiences.
that you asked.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And thank you for watching Sumaya Unveiled. We'll see you next time.